polls to elect president and National Assembly members of their choice. And back in Cross River State, we will be having on the 11th in Cross River State and every other state apart from the one-off elections. So every other state will be having their timeout come March 11 for governorship and House of Assembly elections. Now, joining me on set to look at some very critical issues as far as politics is concerned, I have the YPP governorship candidate, Cross River State, Joseph Kokobasi. So good to have you join us. Good evening and welcome, Joseph.
Good evening, and how do you, Joe?
I'm great. This is Joseph talking with Joseph.
It's a great one, brother.
Okay, now let's quickly look at first youth involvement in politics. It appears that youth are more in politics, but when it has to do with governance, we don't see them there. Many thanks for people like you who, coming out to be at the fore to ensure that young people also have their voices heard. But let's look at what's your opinion about youth in politics, youth in governance?
Well, Joe, I want to thank you so much for bringing me here this evening. I think I hold an opinion about young people getting themselves into politics. Well, basically, I strongly think that politics is what rules the world. When everything you do, politics actually affects them. When it comes to what you eat, what you do, the time you do it, it's all about politics. So involvement of youth in politics is one very prime thing I had always been advocating for. But I strongly believe that youth involvement in politics shouldn't be politics as a career, but politics as service. So the actual thing I strongly believe is getting into politics is not just using it as a career, but being there to save the people, and the mandate of the people should be given to the people the way it's supposed to be served. In Cross River State, I would want to say that youth involvement in politics is not new. Sincerely, Cross River State had been a pivotal role state in youth in politics. I could remember when I was then in secondary school, I had a very young governor in person of His Excellency Dr. Clement David Ebri. He was a young man when he ascended office in 1991. I think I could be very precise. And he left office, and then another young person came after him, Mr. Donald Duke. He was a young man. I strongly think that youth involvement in politics isn't new to Cross River State. But how best does young people use themselves in government? That is what matters most. Thank you so much.
Okay, clearly that means on one side, youth are, especially in Cross River State, are given opportunity. But now what they make out of it
is what matters most.
Is all what matters most. Okay, now trying to look at the broader spectrum now, a wider spectrum, let's look at those things that hinder youths, Nigerian youth, Cross River youth, to really getting involved in elections and governance.
Well, I think first in elections, what matters most is the high cost of political involvement in Cross River State and in Nigeria in general. Some of us are advocates that if the National Assembly would want to do what is actually desired of them, should be able to get people to have independent candidates where you don't go through party processes, where you go to pay billions and millions of naira to be able to have tickets or have forms to run elections. If you could look, my party paid one of the least amount of money, 7 million naira for a party nomination form. I think it was very considerate at this level. But I think it is so exorbitant that it stops young people. How many young persons would be able to work for? How many years would you save that? To be able to have opportunities of getting nomination forms to buy and then vie for offices. And when it comes to the aspect of contest, when people try to use money to dissuade people or persuade people to come vote and support them, that is where you'll be able to find that young people with good ideas, with strong motivation and strong push to be able to save their people would not be given opportunities to do it because they wouldn't have the finances to muscle themselves to this aspect, and it kills young people who have good and genuine intentions to vie for positions.
Then let's also look at the role of Godfatherism. Does it play a positive role or negative role as far as bringing the youth into governance?
Well, I think that's one of the major problems we have faced in Cross River State. Godfatherism is one aspect that is very, very bad. I strongly believe that, people would have role models, not godfathers. You could always have a role model based on the person's antecedent or what the person had been able to achieve. but not those godfatherism where people would want to pick people who they think is actually not qualified, for the sense that they want to have their ways, or have people they could remote control when they find themselves in office. I think today in Cross River State is actually playing out that you could find people who had been godfathers to people coming to come to apologize to the public and saying sorry, or it's unfortunate we gave you a wrong candidate. Then I think with this, young people and people should think, why do we believe in people thinking for us? We have our thinking faculties. We could be able to assess our candidates. We could be able to see the antecedents. We could see what they've been able to achieve when they had opportunities, and then be able to follow them. Not to follow godfathers, because godfathers most times want to remain perpetually in power. And with this, they would always want a substandard material so that they could remain seen and controlling the system.
Okay. Now, let's look at, I want to quickly present an analogy there. I've seen several footages, I've seen quite a number of campaigns cutting from that of the PDP, the APC, and the Labour Party. Now, these are gentlemen who are way above 60 years. Peter Obi is way above 60, and Tinubu of the APC and Atiku of the PDP are way above 70. Now, the drift is that we see young people who are saying youth are the leaders of tomorrow, being the frontiers, the ones moving around, running the campaigns, pushing the agenda of these ones. They said a few weeks back, or a few months or years back, that these are old men. So the question is, Joseph, are the youth really ready? Are Nigerian youth really ready for governance?
Well, I want to say that Nigerian youths are ready for governance, but they have one thing that had been a problem. If you put people in a particular situation for too long a time, it's always difficult to take them out of it. We had mental problems, where mental slavery in Nigeria, where young people would believe that the masters would always be there to put food on the table for them, will always be there to take them to wherever they want to go to. So with that, it's difficult for them to disengage themselves from these persons, because the Machiavellian system is keep them hungry, give them a little, and then they will do what you want. To this extent, that's where they've kept the people perpetually in poverty, in hardship, so they would always come back to them as the masters to provide for them. But I want to tell us that what is happening today in Nigeria is something that so many persons would have to tell tomorrow, that the thing has changed. The ball game has changed. Yes, we wouldn't have a very young person aspiring for president today, but we have young people aspiring for governors, we have young people aspiring for House of Reps, Senate, and various offices. But I strongly think that in a very short possible time, because of the nature of our political system had changed also, and that young people have also discovered that with nothing, with their past experiences, with their past activities, they can also achieve something reasonable and something good. With these, I strongly think that young people will pull out, because it's not going to be an easy thing that we could do it immediately. It's not an immediate thing. It's not a rocket science stuff that immediately we start, we'll get it right. But the fact is that with time, I strongly believe that young people will get themselves off these apron string of these people, paymasters that have kept them in perpetual poverty. When we look at the presidential and the governorship, presidential candidates of the three major parties that are putting up themselves today, I strongly think that the young people, if they can't do the presidential elections today, they will do the presidential elections tomorrow. Because if we look at countries like UK, and you find young men of 20, 30 being prime ministers of a country like UK, then I strongly think that we have all the resources here in Nigeria, in young people, to be able to have a better Nigeria. Because if we bring young people, they'll bring young ideas, and we'll run with time, and we will be able to do better.
Okay, now, let me get your comment on the money factor. It takes billions of naira to prosecute a political campaign. Let's look at that. You are a young person, and how is that hitting you as regards the money factor in politics?
Well, I strongly think some of us have had this drive from time. The drive of not just being money conscious when you go into politics, or you want to spend money in politics. For some of us, we believe that we have the solution and we can take it to the people, and the people will run with us. But I think the aspect of money at this particular point is something that is a problem to the bourgeois, the people that call themselves the bourgeois, the old thieves, who have stolen our monies and stacked them in the bank accounts, and they can't access their monies. That's why they are crying. But I strongly think that in politics, what should be able to be touching people like us is being able to get to the people, having ability to get campaign materials out there for people to see and know that there are candidates like these in these parties. But for us, I don't think we have any money problems because we don't believe in the drive of money. Politics with money is slavery, because when a man gives you from the right hand side, he collects double from you with the left hand side. And how much do people get at the end of the day? Because that's what deters so many young people that wouldn't want to dare into politics. Where would I have money to go and give to people? Where would I have money to go and do campaigns? Campaigns is talking to people, telling people what you have to provide for them, what the system should look like, and giving them blueprints of what you want to do in office. It's not giving people money. So I think I want to use this opportunity also to encourage young people that they need to stand up, not because they don't have money, but all they have is their ideas and the solution to the problems of the people. They should be able to do it. For money is not a problem. For us, we don't have a problem. Let the government be hiking whatever they want to hike. We could talk about putting billboards. They will go and put 2 million, 10 million, and telling you to come and pay like 10 million to hoist a billboard. For what? This is not what we voted them for. We need a level playing ground where young people could also have access to these things. So, but for campaign, I want to say it isn't a money-driven thing. It is an idea and ideology-driven thing. So I strongly think that money is not a problem to some of us in campaigns. But what we need is a level playing ground where people could be able to have access to public materials where they could be able to display themselves and get opportunity to be seen. That is it.
Okay. Now, towards the start of the second term of Mr. President, he signed the Not Too Young to Run bill into law, which is now an act. Let's look at that. Between 2019 and now, almost a space of 4 years, how have the Nigerian youths key into this Not Too Young to Run act? Have we seen the youth involvement springing up here and there in Nigeria?
Well, I think the not too young to rule or not too young to run act or bill or whatever it's being termed. The fact is that the youth don't need that because it has not translated into encouraging the young people. If it was there to translate to encouraging young people, forms cost shouldn't be as high as these. It should have affected some certain nitty-gritty of the contest, which can encourage young people to wake up in the morning and say, look, I have what it takes to run a country, I have what it takes to run a state, I have what it takes to represent my people in the House of Representatives, I have what it takes to go to the Senate to represent people. Then we should be talking about the bill. But if the bill has not affected all these aspects, then I think it is just effort in futility. It was just a window dressing for Nigerians to think that the president and the people in power are encouraging young people to run elections. If you encourage young people to run elections, there are some certain things you need to provide. Sincerely, there are some certain things you need to provide. You need to look at the cost of form prices in political parties. If you need to keep a peg, then you need to. And I strongly think that is what will encourage young people. And I strongly think too, if young people would also look at it from that perspective, and young people would always come out to contest elections. So they not too young to rule thing. I think it was just a mirage. It was just building castle on the air because it has not achieved exactly what it was meant to achieve. Today in Nigeria, we should have a 34-year-old young man coming out to run elections and saying, look, this is what I want to do as a president of Federal Republic of Nigeria. Not just because somebody had asked him to come out and then do that so that they could say, somebody came from this aspect and that. But I think somebody that has the mindset that he wants to rule Nigeria. Nigeria is not too big. Nigeria is not too great to be run or ruled by a 35-year-old man or a 27-year-old man. If UK could be ruled by a young person, then what is wrong with Nigeria? So I think that bill that had become an act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not something we should be able to celebrate. For me, I don't celebrate it. I strongly believe that young people need to stand up, not looking for enabling laws to make them aspire, but for them to know themselves that they could be able to do it and do it better than those that have been there before them. Look at Nigeria as a country. During the military regime, count how many presidents we had or military head of state. How many of them were above 35? Did they have a not too young to rule bill to make them become president. No, they had the push and they wanted to correct the impression in their country or the wrongdoings in their country or the narratives. And that's why they stood up to the challenge. So young people don't need to look for a law to make them stand up to run or contest elections to rule the people. So I think not too young to rule is just a bizarre.
Okay. Now, let me quickly take you back. About 2 weeks ago, or thereabout, INEC put out voter distribution now and said all the PVCs registered so far stand at 93,469,008. Now, this is what they call the occupational distribution. Yep. Now, we saw youth here, those categorized as youth between the ages of 18 to 34, having 37,060,399. Now, making a percentage of 39.65. Now, we saw the middle class, or what they call the middle age, which is from 35 to 49. Having a total of 33,413,591. Now, if you put from age 18 to 49, that is because we can still carry all of them along as youth. Yeah. It's way above, a little bit above 70 million. Now, just about 23 million left for the women and the men. With this number, is this not a sizable number that any focused youth of the nation can galvanize to ensure that maybe if this one misses them, come 2023, Nigerian youth should make use of this distribution to produce the next president?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect statistics. And actually, you would always tell, outside the PVC registration, we talk about the election day actually. How many old people come out to vote? It's always between this age of 18 and 50, majorly, that we want to come out and exercise the franchise. So I strongly think that this is just a youth for youth thing, that Nigeria should be able to run on it. But it's unfortunate, like one owning a property and taking his property and handing over his property to some other person to share his property back to him. This is your thing. As a young person, this is your property. And you take your property and go to give to one man who sits back and shares your property and gives to you and takes a chunk of it. And at that point, you come back to regret or you come to complain. I strongly think that 2023 doesn't work because you see, the problem had always been the electoral system. People had lost trust on the electoral system in Nigeria, where you find people coming, picking electoral materials, using security, bamboozling people, and rough handling people, and walking away with them, go write the results, return them, and the results are announced, and you cannot query whoever had done that. But the electoral system has so far changed with what I have seen. So I think within a period of time, it's going to encourage so many persons. You see, it's like what happened in Nigeria between 1998 and 1999. When democracy returned to Nigeria, so many people didn't believe it. So many people thought it was just a child's play, that they're going to play over it again and then play and turn it round, and at the end of the day, it's going to be scuttled. But that's why you could find the people that took the opportunity standing still and being part of it till today. But I think with this, what we've seen after 2023 elections, because we've seen a part of it, it had happened in Cross River State when the Yala-Ogoja Federal Constituency elections was conducted. It happened in the by-elections in Akpabuyo. And I strongly think that when we see it holistically in Cross River State, we'll be able to tell that the electoral system is working. So in that aspect, I strongly believe that young people who are strong, good, reasonable, who has something to offer, will come out for the elections in 2027, because 2023 is going to be a test run to see if we can trust the electoral process. But I strongly think the electoral process is perfect. For now, I can't encourage anybody because it is finished. The filing processes is over. But what we're waiting for is to do a test of it. But I think by 2027, we should have a young person in his 40s, a young person that should be at most at early 50s, even 51, 52, who has what it takes to be president in this country, coming out to say, I want to be president in Nigeria. Not just wanting to be, but being sure of what he or she wants to do in Nigeria. So I think that the electoral process has been a problem, but we are going to build our hope and our faith in this, because I strongly believe in INEC. As far as 2023 elections is concerned, I strongly believe in INEC, because they've done so much of experiments, they've tested this, tested that, and today, for so many things we've run away from, I think we've been able to have it. And with the test of Beavers, what I know about it, it's going to give us something we'll write home about. And then we'll be able to tell that 2027 is going to be young people coming out in earnest to be able to take over leadership in Nigeria.
Okay, so Joseph Kokobasi, let me just take you a bit away from youth talk now. A couple of months back, we saw the Central Bank of Nigeria coming up with a new Naira redesign policy. And some people are alleging that it has a way, hitting on politicians, who go about vote trading, vote buying, and all of that. What's your comment on this new Naira vis-a-vis vote trading in Nigerian politics?
Well, I want to think, I want to say something. I don't look at it actually on the vote buying stuff. I'm trying to see that the Nigerian economy is trying to evolve. If you go to developed economies, you wouldn't find so much of currencies flowing in the system. It brings security. To me, it brings so much security. As I walk around, I might not have a 10 naira in my pocket. I should be able to say, okay, I can buy something without having 10 naira in my pocket. Because if you carry chunks of money, you could understand what happens in the society today. People are robbed on daily basis, and in short, on every second basis. So I look at the Naira redesign policy as a wonderful one. Then, based on what the central bank had said, they said they want to reduce the cost of printings of our Naira notes. I want to agree with them. I think they need to be sincere also on that aspect. But if it comes to this other end of it affecting politicians and vote buying, I want to say it was not just the central bank making it, it's God's making. Because I think it's going to give us a wherewithal to be able to look at leaders and choose from what is right for us, not who pays us. Though I think so many persons, even if they would allow for vote buying, so many persons will strongly get the money from these persons and still vote against them, because the people have suffered so much. If we could look at our society, look at our economy, look at everything that happens around us, every young man believes that if he goes to school and comes out of school, he should be able to have a job to do. He should be able to have himself involved in something he could make a living from. But at this time, it is very difficult. Out of every 100, you have like 2%, not up to even 5%, that will be able to have something doing. So I strongly think that they also believe that even when you give them this money, some people will always tell me that if they give us this money, we'll tell them it is for the 4 years you have ruled us and have taken our commonwealth. This one is our own. So we need to take this and do a choice that will stand for us. So I strongly think that the Naira redesign is not aimed at touching any particular person. But look at it. The country Nigeria, who has so much money, look at what the central bank say. They have how many billion printed that they think is in circulation. But money in the bank and money at hand is far less than half of what is in circulation. So where are the rest? We've seen people bringing cash from their homes that have been torn, destroyed, eaten up by termites and all those stuff. Where were these monies? How did they get them? Why didn't they keep them in the banks? So I strongly think that it's a policy that will help Nigerians. I know every new policy that comes with difficulties and problems, but gradually we're going to weather into it. But at this point too, I'd always also think that the ordinary man always suffers most. That is where so many persons are being used and against what is happening. An ordinary man that finds himself in a problem and needs some liquid cash to be able to do one or two things can't do it. But I think the banks should be able to wake up to the challenge, provide means of paying monies through e-transfers, through ATMs, through POS, and then the liquid cash for those young, those downtrodden people that need some little cash. Allow them have access to it, because the ordinary market person who sells crayfish in the market cannot get money from a man through a bank transfer. So to this, but I want to sum up that it is not aimed at any politician. But if there's any politician that had thought of using money in buying votes, then that is for him or her. But I strongly think Nigeria must progress. That is my belief.
Okay, sincerely, I'm really enjoying this session with you, Joseph Kokobasi. I think I'll just hit just one or two more before I bring this session to an end. Now, you are the YPP governorship candidate here in Cross River State. What do you hope to bring differently if your people vote you into power?
Okay, I think first, as a person, we need people that have the passion to save the people. And it is the passion that brought me out of where I was. I worked in the public service for 17 years. And I left at my prime, just getting to an assistant director in public service. I left because it wasn't because I just needed to be governor, but because I needed to also contribute my quota to the people. I strongly think that Cross River State desires more than what we have today. We've lost the synergy between the preceding government of Cross River State, where things we had are no more in existence. I strongly think that if I find myself in office as a governor of Cross River State, young people should be able to have jobs around them. And we have all it takes to provide jobs for young people. I am not a Machiavellian. I don't believe in the bourgeois kind of lifestyle where we keep people in perpetual poverty and then give them a little. I don't believe in people begging people money. I believe in people doing something, substantive things to get their living out of it. So I don't believe also in putting food on the table for people, because that makes people lazy and it wouldn't allow them to live for themselves. I strongly think that young people desire good jobs. And if you give me an opportunity, like I said, give me 6 months, I should be able to build 2,000 Cross Riverians, young Cross Riverians in ICT that could be able to employ so many other persons. We need to broaden our horizon. We could be able to build a China in Calabar. We have ITM in Ugep, which I really follow. I want to say that I wouldn't understand why the succeeding government after Senator Lee Elimoke wouldn't put that place into use. When we have young Cross Riverians that are very vast in technology, that are vast in so many things, we need to build a made in Cross River State vehicle. In some days back, I found it on the social media. A young man, I think he's from Ondo or which state, who had built these small minibuses. We can be able to have that in Cross River State, because I strongly know that there are young people in Cross River State that are desirous of building these things. And ITM is there in Ugep, wasting away and being followed, and grass are growing all around the whole place. So I think that we need to build capacity. Capacity building is the actual thing. We need to build the people to build the society. If you go to the youth council, they always say build the youth and build the nation. I come from that background that you build a young person, and in turn the young person will build the society. And what do we need to build in young people? Giving them capacity. And what is the capacity? Giving them what to do to make a living out of it. And if they do things, they will stay out of crime. Crime rate will be reduced. If you get, I have a power bank that is built in Calabar, made in Calabar. If you see it, you think it was built in China. That's the power bank I use. And they built it at Unical Smallgate, just there under a canopy. And some people sit down there and build what we can be able to use. And people are working on so many things in Cross River State. I strongly think that we want to give people jobs, opportunities. We want to protect lives and properties in Cross River State. We want to also encourage education in Cross River State. If I look at myself, I'm a product of government benevolence. Though when I was a student leader, I had to ask for government benevolence to students of Cross River State, because most times those things are statutorily put in the budget of the state, like bursaries, like scholarship. I hear people glamor and clap hands for pronouncement by government about scholarships. I think it is not a new thing in Cross River State, and in as much as I know, in Cross River State, if we want to talk about scholarships, then invariably the government of Cross River State of today are starting very late. After 8 years in office, and we're doing scholarship today and we're clapping for it. No, scholarship is a continuous thing. We need to build young Cross Riverians and give them opportunity to go to school and then be able to make them become something for themselves. Now, Cross River State, look at it. For how many years have bursaries been paid in Cross River State? It is over 22 years. I strongly think I was the last student leader that caused the payment of bursaries in Cross River State. Over 22 years today. And then I think education had been so backward. Some of us caused Cross River State to go into something which had ended the payment of WAEC fees for secondary school students. I strongly believe that that is part of the government's effort to encourage education.
Okay, Joseph, I think I have to just cut here because of time. Now, this is what I hope to do. I'll have to bring you back before your elections, and let's do an elaborate discourse on your aspiration. But 13 days, about 12 days from now, yes, we should be having the national elections, the president's presidential election and the National Assembly. And as a young person, I'd love you to advise young people who have been, finding the embers of political violence, electoral crimes here and there. I'd love you to advise Cross-Riverians and residents watching this show at this moment.
Well, I want to say political violence had been one thing I had fought for against over time. I strongly believe, and I would always say one thing: for every politician that brings you out of your home and gives you peanuts to go and cause violence and go and fight yourself, like what is happening presently in Akpabio local government, how many of them are their children part of it? Anybody that want to say go and fight, go and kill somebody, go and do this, do that, for the sake of his political aspiration, please stay off it, because none of them would allow their children to come out. Most of their children are playing with iPhone 40 or iPhone 50, if there is anyone like that, at home, eating and sleeping at home. They wouldn't even go out to cast their votes. If they go, they will go in company of the parents with security to cast their votes and then go back home. So young people should abstain from all these ills, because it's not going to pay us. If they pay you today to go and do that, what will happen tomorrow? At the end of the day, so many persons have lost their lives. Today, in Akpabio, some people have lost their homes. Some people have run away from staying at home just because of what? And going to defend somebody who had paid you money to go and cause crisis. Political crisis is not going to end you anything. As far as these elections is concerned, I want to tell the young people that the beavers has come to take away carry and run. What we call it carry and run is going to the polling units, hit people, machete people, shoot people, and carry the ballots and go and make your paymasters win. It does not work any longer. So we don't need to waste our time going out to kill our brothers. After elections, they stay still alive after elections. So young people cannot be depleting themselves and allowing the elders sit continually and make us enemies to ourselves. So I will beg young people, as a matter of fact, please try as much as you can to stay off election violence and be yourself. If you have a candidate you support, go out, vote for him and walk away. But please don't go harming people for the sake of any politician. No man's life is worth any elections. Thank you.
Mr. Joseph Kokobasi, YPP governorship candidate, Cross River State, I must really thank you indeed. I've really enjoyed this session. I look forward to having you next month.
Thank you so much.
Hope you oblige as well.
No, certainly I will be.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we heard it there from Joseph Kokobasi, the YPP governorship candidate, Cross River State, and especially his last words that you should ensure you stay away from electoral violence. Now, this is our offering tonight on Weekend Politics. We will be back next week, God willing. See you next week Sunday. My name is Joseph Ian. Good night.